I wanted to share about the first person I thought I loved, how he hurt me, and how purity culture influenced how I felt about myself and what I felt I needed to do to make it right.
Sitting in my kitchen, talking about stuff.
Before I jump into my story, I just wanted to make a quick little announcement of saying thank you to everyone who helped me to reach my first official big YouTube milestone of 1,000 subscribers. Thank you! If you're new here, I'm really glad for this chance to share a really difficult thing in my life. Let's just jump right into the real stuff. This channel is about authenticity, vulnerability, overcoming toxic thinking, finding community, just knowing that we are not alone in our struggles. I'm really glad that you're here. Thanks. Okay, let's get into it. This is a hard video to make. Holy good juboos. I found the diary where I first met. We'll call him Ken. Number 14. And it's so weird reacquainting my life with almost 20 years ago. In 2024, all this will have happened 20 years ago. It's so weird going back in time to the point before I just fell head over heels. There was always a constant battle in my head of, but I need to be a better Christian. I need to think about things the right way. And when I met Ken, he was a baby Christian, and so I felt like, no, I can't let myself fall in too deep because I need to be a good example for him. Me, a 18-year-old. He was 24-ish, something like that. But up to this point, nobody had ever really liked me. I mean, there were boys that I had had kind of a pen pal relationship with. There were crushes that were mostly me to them, but nobody that had ever really pursued me, liked me, wanted to be around me, just made me feel wanted. It started out so innocently, so sweetly, but something that I did when I was processing everything that happened is I would write notes in the margins, and man, I'd forgotten. I guess I had blocked a lot of stuff. I wrote in end of January, I'm pretty much in love by now. Like a week after, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this guy. He's cute, but I don't know. To 8 days later, I'm pretty much in love by now. I could see us just beaming with joy together, so much that we couldn't hide it if we wanted to. And then I wrote this note in the margins after the fact. Hiding was never an option. His hands were down my pants in front of complete strangers, up my shirt. It was like I was his property. Whew. A huge part of the story is that there were times when I said I didn't like what he was doing, and he wouldn't stop. Like being in public and him putting his hand down my pants to squeeze my butt or slap it or whatever. I wasn't comfortable, but I didn't want to lose him because nobody had ever given me that kind of attention before. I'm just sitting here reading this journal, going back in time, feeling like I'm just kind of stalling. Like, just spit it out, Kate. I knew purity culture teachings, but when it came to Ken, I just kind of separated myself into two different people. The fairly hormonal teenager that just wanted to be close to him, and the spiritual person. And it's like they coexisted away from each other. when this relationship turned uncomfortable to the point when he started touching me and I couldn't tell people about it because I didn't want them judging me. I couldn't tell my best friend. I just had to keep it all inside. I hated how that felt. I remember this moment of having some earworm, you know, when you have a song stuck in your head, and starting to sing this song and then not being able to because the song was like a purity culture song. That was like, I promise to be true to you, to live my life in purity. Waiting for the day when I hear you say, here is the one I have created just for you. It's a Jackie Velasquez song. And I felt this shame and this guilt just on me that like I can't sing those words because I'm not waiting. I'm not being a good person. And I would go back and forth in my head of, no, we have to not be alone, to turning off that voice in my head and just being like, how can we get alone? How can we sneak to get alone? Because it's a drug, it's addicting. And I would go back and forth between worrying like, oh no, did I go too far? Am I not technically a virgin now? Am I bad? And then anytime I would get some space to think clearly, to not be up in that drug, I would just feel like garbage. I would feel like I was just ruining myself and that I had no value. And I would write the angstiest poetry ever. Oh. I wish I could just tell myself that this is normal. Your desires are normal, and just be careful. And don't think that your value lies in how much of the definition of virgin you can claim. The relationship progressed quickly. We started officially dating like I think it was what we kind of counted it as official was Valentine's Day. 2004. Wait, are we in 2000? This is 2005, the year I joined Covenant Players. I was well aware that the only way to make all the stuff that I had done with him okay was to get married to him. That was the only thing. Then I found out that he was a person who took pot, and that really, really rocked me. I don't feel quite so rigid about this anymore, but it was a huge deal then. Just feeling so lied to, and I remember a point where him and this other guy were just kind of preaching to me about how pot wasn't bad, and I just felt so confused. Honestly, I only know of like 1 week of our time together that he wasn't just like completely high. Like, it's the only time that I know for sure that he wasn't high was when we went to be on vacation as a family, because he didn't take any stuff with him for 1 week. Oh man, this is so hard. So February 19th, well, we Frenched today, and something tells me that we won't be kissing again for a while. Long story, but basically I laid out some rules. We shouldn't be alone. And then it all hit him. He realized that he's making me want more than I should be wanting. It takes two to tango, but he's the man, the older one who knows more, and I'm the pure innocent one. He was so sad, crying, kicking himself. I told him to talk to God, write down what he says and set it in stone, not accept lies and condemnation. I hope he heard me. He was so sad. I don't know what's going to happen. I gave him some time to think, and something happened when I went to sit by him, the way he scooted away from me. Is he going to avoid me now? I don't really understand. Everything that needed to be said was said, but I can't shake the feeling that he's sad and hurting. And then in the margins I wrote, haha, define a while. Define wait for me. Wait for me to relax, loosen up, give in, and want. Sounds more realistic to what really happened. Another margins note was, this was one phase of psycho guilt tripping. No matter what, if it makes him feel bad, it's my fault, and therefore shut up or be responsible for his sadness. It was a steady chain, but it got broken in the fall. He let himself go because he never put boundaries on himself. Yeah, there was a lot of emotional manipulation. Like, the thing that stuck in my head, of the hardest part of my story, is a time when we were doing the dance around. He was doing stuff to me and it hurt. I didn't like it, and I wish I had just said stop. I don't like that. Instead, like, the thing that I said was probably more like, that kind of hurts. And he said, you better get used to it. And I was still just so addicted to him that something as horrible as that it crossed the boundary beyond consent. Acknowledging that something hurts and not changing it crosses consent and becomes abuse. And it's just wrong, and nobody should ever make anyone feel that way. Nobody should ever feel like they have to endure pain. And there was a time when I never would have dreamed of telling this story and putting it out on the internet, because it was so important to me that everyone thought that I was this perfectly good, pure, innocent kid. And I did stuff before I was married. Oh well. It never made me less of a person. It doesn't make anyone less of a person. Morton loves me, and he never judged me for anything. It breaks my heart that there are people out there who were completely taken advantage of as children and still felt that they needed forgiveness from their spouse later on for something that wasn't their fault. I just can't even think of anything more heartbreaking than that, to think that there's any sense of blame and guilt attached to something that was done to you. I was just reading this part of the story where we had progressed to the hickey stage, and a lady from church had called and told my mom, and then I realized I needed to tell my dad. I was an adult. I was older than they were when they were married. And they made such a production about it. My heart was broken by how my dad was shocked. Dad looked about to cry, shocked. Dad looked about to cry, shocked, blown out of his mind, hit over the head. I don't think I'm exaggerating. On cliches maybe, but not on the truth. I got some makeup from Chappelle. Hopefully we can get through church without anyone noticing, pointing, looking down, embarrassment, shame. I don't understand how my parents thought that I was a person that did not have any desires. Did they desire to have an asexual child? That they made it this personal thing. I feel like that's just kind of wrong. And I'm not going to do that to my kids at all. I'm going to give them the tools that they need to be careful, to be safe. But Sweden is way better than America in that sense, that all kids get sex ed from the school. They learn the proper names for things. And there's a lot less teen pregnancy, and there's a lot less wooginess attached to the whole shebang. Well, that was kind of all over the place, but oh well. I am not worried about that. I just wanted to share this. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments, or if it's just too personal, you can send me a message, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I can put those socials, you can find those socials down below in the description. I know that there is power in our stories, and just opening our mouths and talking and sharing it can be the hardest thing that anybody does. And on this channel, I'm going to be having conversations with people sharing their most difficult stories because they believe that their stories have value and that sharing them can change the world for someone. And I'm so inspired and challenged by people being willing to do that, that I realized I should be willing to share my story. I'm not going to share all of it because a lot of it has to do with other people, and I'm not going to share other people's stories. I just don't want anyone feeling like I did, feeling worthless, feeling like they have to continue to punish themselves over what they chose to do or what happened to them. Neither of those things make you any less. And I just want to give you a hug. I'm okay. I am free of any of that old guilt and shame, and I hope that other people can be too. Also, if anyone would like a part 2 to this, just like if you have any questions for me, or if you have any questions about my story, about that inner journey, if you want to hear some of my emo poetry, I can share some of that. Just let me know. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Once more. Hugs. Just got my booster shot yesterday, so can't really be as gung-ho about the hugging. It hurts, but it's worth it. But also, the thing that I do at the end of my videos is the nostrils of death, because I was teased as a kid for my large nostrils. But you know what? We can embrace the things about ourselves. I was called monkey nose, and now, someday, these things are gonna be on merch. Who wants some nostrils of death merch? Nostrils of death.